Welcome everyone back to another video. Here today we will take a look at all of the Super Saiyan God Gokus on the screen currently. In the future, I plan to do more videos like this, so let me know if you guys have any recommendations that you guys have for improving this format in the future, and of course, I'll see if I can accommodate that, and if there are any other units that you want to see ranked, or a group of units, let me know in the comments down below. I do have some preliminary calculations. We're going to go over those as well. We're just going to try to see which units are the best, of course, in my opinion. Feel free to disagree. Feel free to let me know what you think in the comments as well down below. But if you enjoy this type of video, once you're done with it, please remember to leave a thumbs up on the video. It greatly helps out the channel. That being said, let's go ahead and jump into our Ss G Goku rankings. Okay, so our first one we're going to take a look at is the original, the OG Agl Ssg Goku. Passive skill, attack and defense plus 80% when performing a super attack. Links are Godly Power, Shocking Speed, Super Saiyan, Over in a Flash, Kamehameha, Warrior Gods, and Fierce Battle. So we're going to have him on RO U7, representatives of U7, and the relevant units that will be on the team with him will be Kaioken, Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken. We have SSBE Vegeta. We also have UI Goku, just to try to trigger the relevant links on this man. Important note though is that he does raise his attack indefinitely when he launches a super, so he has the ability to continue to get stronger as he proceeds. So as you guys see here, we have 824,000 attack stat on average with the relevant links on ROU7. That is a very nice attack stat, I would say, you know, for a unit that's incredibly old naturally anyway. He didn't really get the most relevant or up-to-date passive anyway. I noticed this recently, but he has the exact same passive word for word as a unit like AGL Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta, not the new one, the old one who's been awoken in the game for like a couple years now. So it's not even a really new up-to-date passive. And then at 100%, he's at 1.168. So ultimately, though, we have a unit that gets to about 1.2 million attack stats. So that's what I want to point out now. These are attack stats. These are not the actual damage, right? Because damage is subjective. Remember that for the video. Damage is subjective. If you take on an older event, if you take on type advantaged event, if you get a crit, things like that, it is all subjective. Speaking of crits, though, for these calculations, my man did not include chance to do critical hits in here because he thinks that's a little bit misleading. So we did not have that as well. But, I mean, this man doesn't really do anything like that. So nonetheless, though, huge shout out to DeVille. I really appreciate it. Anyway, so there is Ss G Goku, AGL type. We're going to now transition to the next one. And the next one is Ss G Goku. He will be considered on the Movie Heroes team with all of his relevant links active. Also even going to have support, as you see here. So again, most of the units will be applied to the Movie Heroes team as their best possible team. So we take a look at this man, though. With his SSG Vegeta partner, they trigger enough relevant links between each other. His attack stat is only at 664,000 naturally, at 55%. That is a stark contrast to the AGL one, and then when we add support, the AGL Gohan there as support, that jumps, of course, almost 100,000 to 757,000 attack stat with SSG and with that Gohan on rotation with him. So at the rainbow level, he doesn't even hit a million attack stat, so he's at 939,000, rounding up to 940 at 100% without support. He does get over a million barely with the Gohan on rotation as well to 1,070,000. So ultimately, I'm not really. So here's the deal: like the passive that he has, the requirement for it being above 30% is not innately a hard thing to do. But I will say that it's not the best thing just to have that. Also, not having any way to bolster his attack any further than 80%. He's probably the one in need the most out of the entire list of an easy A. So there's that. He's going to be probably somewhere towards the bottom. Spoiler, I have not done any rankings yet. We're going to come back and do the rankings at the very, very end. The next unit we're going to go over, though, is we have Ss G Goku physical type. Now, this is the hardest one to calculate and things like that because he's a support unit. He doesn't function the same way as the previous units do and the others that we'll take a look at. So STR and physical types get 2 key and 50%, just supreme damage on the super attack. Also, STR and physical types get 2 key and 25% attack bonus. Now, we had him on Movie Heroes, right? And on Movie Heroes, I had him kind of in a position where he was able to offer support to relevant units on Movie Heroes that also did fit the typing. But do understand that having type limitations like that innately is a pretty, I don't want to say bad thing, but it's not the best thing. Because it's always nice to get a support passive, but it's not the best thing. So naturally, though, his personal damage at 55% is 367,000. That is by far the worst. And then when we come to 100%, he is almost at 700k, but he doesn't make it at 680,000 attack stat. And then we scroll down here to see how he functions as a support unit. So we have Super Gogeta STR type EZA, and we also do have the LR Gogeta as well from Movie Heroes. We have those two, and we offer the support that he offers. So ultimately, he's able to offer 887,000 total damage to that entire rotation. That's really, really cool. That does factor in his personal damage and then the support gain that he offers as well at 55%, with the allies being at 55% as well. And then also, when we take a look at those same allies at 100%, but the Goku at 55%, it is 1,048,000 attack stat. But we take a look at all of the units at we take a look at all of them at rainbow level. It's 1.168. So he's just below kind of the AGL. It's actually really, really close. So ultimately though, he kind of like I said, he's limited, but he gets to a point where he's almost as relevant as the Agl Goku if all of your stuff is rainbow. And of course, that's highly subjective, but just for comparison's sake, that's a really, really cool thing that overall total damage provided does jump that high, including, again, the support and then his own individual damage. And the last little bit I want to point out was STR Gogeta is given 1 rainbow orb, as the LR would take the majority to reach the 24 key. That's a little note that we have here. The LR will also not be considered to be transformed. So that is interesting to note too, because for the calculations, the LR was not transformed. If he was transformed, of course, the damage would be a lot higher provided. And then also, if Gogeta was given more rainbow orbs, whatever the case is, you know, maybe it fluctuates a little bit as well. So there we go with Ssg Goku, the physical type. We will now move on to Agl Goku. Now, the Agl Goku is really, really interesting because I said that the last one was probably the most hardest one to calculate. This one truly is. And initially, I was going to have him in a position where we just showed his SSG form, just calculated that. But I wanted to make it more relevant, more, you know, honest, right? Because he does fluctuate between different forms, right? So it's kind of hard to just calculate his SSG, but we do stop at SSG. We don't calculate his SSB because SSB gets into, I believe, guaranteed critical hits and all that type of stuff. So just know that his actual value could potentially have been higher if we actually went ahead and calculated the final form. Super class types get 3 key and 120%, raises attack and defense per super attack limitlessly though. It does not have a turn limit on it, and also causes immense damage to the enemy. So he is the first one with immense, also attack and defense raise, which makes sense because he's the most recent one out of all the ones we've taken a look at so far. So he actually is interesting too, because he is forced to be calculated on a weaker team. We could have put him on SS3, but on SS3, he doesn't really trigger most of his relevant links. So I did put him on the ROG, which is only 150. So this is the weakest leader skill calculation so far in the video. So keep that in mind. Active links, of course, he will be on rotation with Ssg Goku and SSB Kaioken. So he fluctuates because for his first couple of forms, he's with SSB Kaioken, and then when he does go ahead and get to his God form, he's on rotation with AGL, the original Agl Ssg. So anyways, we're going to take a look here. You guys can see the stats. I'm not going to lay out every single one, but what we will do is go down to the Ssg Goku. So at 55%, he himself is at 1.57. But with the 40% support applicable there, he jumps all the way to 1.8. Guys, this is why support units are so important in the game. We take a look at 100% though, 2 million, and then that jumps all the way to 2.4 million there. So ultimately, this man, he gets insanely powerful. If we were to just calculate this form by itself, that is how powerful this man would be if he was always in this form and if this was his own standalone unit. He is incredibly powerful. But again, there are previous calculations too. So if we take a look at the very, very first one, ultimately at 55% with support, it's 1.25, and then at 100%, it's 1.6. So at rainbow level, he's already outpacing, well, with support anyway, with his first form without transforming, he's on par with the previous ones, but in his second form, he's starting to get better than all of them with support and stuff like that. So consider that too, but ultimately, this guy is going to be probably pretty high on our list. And now we do have our last couple. So we have STR Ssg Goku, one of the OGs as well. So at 55%, on the second super attack, meaning that he is already in a position where he's gained his first super attack, because I believe with units like him, they start off with a lower key multiplier. Correct me if I'm mistaken. But anyways, they start off with a lower key multiplier to make up for the fact that they are going to be getting stacks as well. So second super attack is what we're going to start him off at. 8.43 is where he's at 55%. With support, it jumps to 1,053,000. And then we also have 100% at 1.2 and 1.52 with the support there as well. So honestly, not as big a difference as I would have thought between him and the AGL. The AGL one actually is way weaker, 1.16. Actually, I was thinking he's 1.6, but he's not. He's 1.1. This was 1.5. But AGL actually did not get considered with a support unit with him. So that's part of it too. This is why we have separate laid out stats, because there's the support unit versus no support unit. So really this one out damages regardless at 1.222. So ultimately we have that, and this one should be a better defensive unit anyway because of that too. And then if we had him on other teams like ROG, he'd be able to trigger First Awaken a little bit more readily and stuff like that. So altogether though, I do think this one's probably just a better one than the AGL one for every other reason. And then we have the Goku that just came out, the Tech 1-3 key, and 100% to super tech types. Very good leader skill. I didn't even know that was his leader skill. Supreme damage to the enemy and seals super attacks with a God Bind. Now, the thing about the God Bind is sealing is cool, right? It's really, really cool, but it doesn't help him in this so far. But I will say that it's going to be a bonus because he's the only one that has intangibility like that, and there are just not a whole lot of hero cards that can seal in the game that are relevant. So I'll give him a bonus there, but supreme damage definitely does not help. He is going to be on Movie Heroes, by the way. Key +3 and attack and defense plus 100% at the start of the turn. Randomly changes key spheres of a certain type to rainbow. Key spheres and attack to rainbow key spheres, excuse me, and attack plus 7% per rainbow key sphere obtained. Reduces damage received by 77% when facing a movie boss's category enemy. That last part's not relevant to this video at all, but we'll see what happens. Saiyan Warrior Race, Godly Power, Super Saiyan, prepare for battle, over in a flash, Warrior Gods, and Fierce Battle. The Goku will be calculated with 3 rainbow orbs as his rotation does not demand them, and he creates orbs for himself. And he's going to be on rotation with Str Ssg Vegeta, SSG Vegeta. So that's, of course, going to trigger the relevant links. 1 million attack at 55%. That's really, really good, actually, considering when you take a look at the other ones, that's really, really good. And he peaks at 1.4. So ultimately, that is the final SSG. So we're going to go ahead and jump into some of my personal rankings. Okay, so it is time to jump into our rankings. We're going to rattle them off very quickly because the video's gone on way longer than I thought it would. But to jump in, we have at the very, very bottom, Ss G Goku. I did not think that, for one, his output wasn't the best. He had pretty much the worst numbers overall across the board. And again, if he had any other mechanic to change the super attack, I would have him maybe a little bit higher, but he has very, very tough competition among these units. Also considering the fact that he is the only one that doesn't have Fierce Battle here, I believe. So like that type of stuff really, really hinders him and his overall team as well. So the next one that I have on the list is the physical one, who is, I believe, the original one, aside from the AGL. I think that he's the second oldest one. Anyways, that being said, this man is incredibly specific. That's the problem with him. Due to the specificness of his unit, if that's even a word, I don't think it is. Anyways, how specific he is, excuse me, I can't rank him any higher. And then overall output is just a little bit better than the last one too. Doesn't have any natural boost. So if you made the argument that he would be the bottom of the list, that's fair too. I mean, I put him here just because of the relevancy of how good the units that he would be supporting are, like how relevant the units are. Str Ssg Gogeta is the best Super Gogeta in the game. And then we move on to the LR as well, who's going to be relevant too. And of course, you know, any other STR or physical type unit. So I put him here, but again, argument could be made that he's at the bottom. It doesn't really matter to me. 5 and 6, they're kind of the same thing. But anyways, moving on to the next one, we have Agl Ssg Goku. So the stats overall are pretty solid, but really what holds him back a little bit too is the needing to super attack to get the defense, because just gameplay wise, that's not the best mechanic. And it would be different if he could raise his defense a little bit to where he doesn't exactly need the same amount of defense each time, right? But he doesn't. So in my opinion, I put him here pretty much the middle of the road. Very, very good overall unit. I wind up using using him personally a lot, and raising the attack indefinitely is definitely a bonus. But again, he's getting a bonus of 69,000 at rainbow level per super attack. As you guys see here, that is listed, the numbers that he does get per super at the different values, but it's just not enough. It's just not enough. That second super gets him pretty much on par with, well, an extra super anyway, gets him pretty much on par with the STR. Isn't going to be as good defensively, so I can't put him any higher. But overall, again, very, very good unit. And I'm actually surprised that he ranked this high, to be honest. So moving on to the next one, number 3, we have Str Ssg Goku. So Str Ssg Goku, for all of the reasons that I said, the previous one couldn't be any higher, is pretty much why he ranks just a little bit higher than the last one. So offensively, with or without support, doesn't really matter. He's going to output very, very well. Pretty much the same numbers at 55% offensively anyway, and then a little bit better offensively at 100% with the second attack, things of that nature. But again, the additional defense did really sell it for me, and also having relevant units that can be on rotation and offer support, because we can't discount the support. And when we take a look at the previous one on ROU7 anyway, there is just not a whole lot of relevant offensive support that he would use. Because, you know, you have, maybe if he was on USS, right, Universe Survival Saga, because you'd have access to Topo, you'd have access to the other Topo, you'd have access to Kale, but nah, we didn't calculate him that way. So altogether, though, that's what we will do. Number 2, though, we have Agl Ssg Goku, just because he's not always Agl Ssg Goku. Because if he was always Ssg Goku, he would be number 1 on this list definitively. Of course, number 1 now does go to the brand new one, so that is kind of how I rank this ultimately. I thought that the intangibility for the real number 1 was that he was too good offensively with the Rainbow Orb creation, just, you know, getting bonus attack, starting off with the 100%, and 3 key. 3 key is so unnecessarily good, but it is an extra bonus that he does have. Sealing super attacks, I already talked about how that's a good mechanic for him. And then, of course, the bonus Rainbow Orbs do allow him to stay on pace with any of the other units and outright surpass them as well, even when you don't factor in overall support too. So all together, that guy is number 1. So thank you all for tuning in. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll catch all of you guys in the next Dragon Ball Z